Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City of West Bend Planning Commission meeting for October 5th. Note that we do have a quorum with Commissioner Starl absent and excused. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll note that we have 4 items on our agenda, the first being approval of the minutes, the regular Planning Commission meeting minutes for September 7th.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Model and Fleischman. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And moving on to 4, development proposals, A, conditional use permits, and number 1, CU-21-005, public hearing at 6 p.m. meeting to request a conditional use permit to allow a computer repair service as a major home occupation at 1209 Chestnut Street by Mark Herman. The applicant is Mark Herman of Technology Techs. The agent is the same, and we'll begin with a presentation by our development planner, Jim Ranke. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. So back in July of 2007, the Plan Commission originally approved a conditional use permit for this property for a computer repair service. Then back in 2008, it was discontinued. The property owner has resubmitted and would like to reestablish the request for home occupation for a computer repair service. In accordance with 1737 3K, the conditional use list for this lists a computer repair as a major home occupation as a requirement for a conditional use permit. The owner has submitted a letter dated 9/10 of this year explaining the operations of the home occupation, which would be for repair services for both on and off-site repairs of computer equipment. He stated that there won't be direct sales, and the hours of operations would be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 7 days a week, with some possible changes throughout the years due to holidays. The site also provides enough on-site parking for any customers that would come to the house. All owners within property of 200 feet were notified of the public hearing. Staff received no comments or concerns pertaining to the conditional use. Staff would recommend approval with the listed conditions.
Thanks so much, Jim. So I will open up the public hearing on this item. If anybody from the public would like to speak, feel free to come on up.
Move the public hearing be closed.
Second.
Thank you, Fleischman and Model. All those in favor of ending the public hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then we'll be looking for approval with those conditions.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Model and Newman. Any questions for Jim? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And moving on to B, discussion items. Number 1, a public hearing and approval of proposed Barton Business Improvement District boundary and map and initial operating plan by the City of West Bend. The applicant is the Economic Development Office. The agent is the City of West Bend. We're going to do this in a few different steps. I know that there's many in the audience who would like to speak, and that is wonderful. First, we're going to begin, if we could have our petitioners who had requested this to speak. They can. Then we'll allow our Economic Development and Communications Director, Jess, to talk about process. Then we will go with the then we'll go with the public hearing from that point. I think we'll take it from there.
Sure. I just want to say, as a commercial building owner in the Barton area, I do support this agenda item, but for obvious reasons, I'm going to recuse myself.
Thank you.
And sit in the audience.
And Jess, I did get that wrong. We're going to start with you to talk about format, and then we'll open up to those petitioners.
Good evening. On September 10th, the City of West Bend Common Council and Plan Commission received a letter of petition for the creation of a business improvement district in the Barton area. Included with the letter was an initial 2022 operating plan with valuation assessment data, as well as a detailed map of the proposed bid boundary. The delivery of this petition letter initiated city staff to facilitate the process in accordance with state law. The Economic Development Office published a Class 2 notice and mailed certified letters to all real property owners within the proposed district. Tonight's meeting is a public hearing, and to hear any comments or concerns pertaining to the proposal. Staff is requesting the public or the Plan Commission review and act on the proposed Barton Business Improvement District boundary and operating plan, which includes the budget. To continue on process, tonight's action, after tonight's action, if approved, there would be a 30-day waiting period where the proposed bid can be objected to by petition signed by owners of properties representing more than 40% of the value of the property to be assessed using the same method of valuation specified in the initial operating plan in the proposed bid. Petitions against the creation of the district can be directed to the City of West Bend Economic Development Office. After the 30 days, the Common Council will vote to adopt or reject the proposed bid and operating plan on November 8th. Staff recommends the Plan Commission approve the proposed Barton Business Improvement District boundary and operating plan as presented in order for real property owners within the proposed district to have the opportunity to petition for or against its creation. We have received 2 letters, one in support and one petitioning against the creation of the bid, which I printed off and gave to you. We received them yesterday.
Great. Thanks,
Thanks.
Jess. Now I'll turn it over to those petitioners who started this process. If any of those would like to speak and give us a synopsis of why you're choosing to go this route, we would love to have you speak.
I'm Jeff. I got the wood shop there on Barton Avenue, Wisconsin house. I bought my building in '87. '89, the state came in and redid the Barton Avenue. And in the late '70s, there was some old Christmas decorations up on North Main, and they kind of fell to the wayside. And when Barton Avenue got done, Terry Verana, he built the new decorations for there. And every year you'd go out there and you'd put them up. And then it got early 2000, and he stopped by one day. He said, "I just can't do it anymore." He said, "Would you?" I said, "I'll take it over." So, like 2010 or so, for about 2 or 3 years, me and my son would put them up. And then in 2012, the Barton HBBA got started. And I went to him. I said, "We got these decorations, and so they said, would you help put them up?" They said, "Yeah." So we had them remodeled and we put them all up. But nothing ever gets done up there unless the people up there do it, And I bought my building in '87. I belonged to the Barton Business Association back then. That disbanded after a while. Nothing happened, Everything got sat around. So one person, you can't do it. So in 2012, when the HBBA started, we started doing brat fries. We started fixing stuff up. And in the last couple of years, we got a lot of stuff done, and that's the only way stuff gets done up there. But the people in the HBBA are getting older now. I think I've been in my building for 34 years. I was 34 years old when I bought the building. I'm twice that now. So we just need something that constantly goes on, because you don't get a lot of people up there that, they don't have the time to do it, but they need something to, and like I say, the HBBA, the people are just getting older, and nobody's doing stuff. So, we really need something up there to get it done. Otherwise it's going to fall by the wayside. We had one alderman for 6 years. We never seen him, When we had Jack Schneiberg, he was a great alderman. Terry Verano, he was a great alderman. And Justice, he cares about the area, and it's a nice area up there, for fixing it up. But we just, you get 4 or 5 people, then we do brat fries, and $600 at a crack just doesn't cut it, That's my view of it. So, and if there's something else that comes up, I might be back. So.
Sounds great. And again, this opportunity is just for the petitioners. So if there's any other of those original petitioners who would like to speak, feel free to come on up. So then if there's no others, then I will open up the public hearing. Just as a reminder for our public hearings, this is not a time for back and forth. It's just for short comments to the point. If somebody's already said your comments, we hear them and we thank you for saying them. Keep your comments at least to 2 minutes. We'll try to be respectful of everybody's time here as well. If you'd like to speak, feel free to come on up. Please state your name, address, and let us know what's on your mind. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Bart Williams and Jody Williams. Our property is 1830 Barton Avenue. We live on Skyline Drive. It's a vacant lot currently. We're against the proposal to create a Barton bid district for a lot of reasons. Just a few of them are, we believe in such important American foundational principles as individual freedoms, private property rights, limited government, the rule of law, not of men or mobs, no taxation without representation, free enterprise, a strong work ethic, and the power of voluntarism. We agree with the Thomas Jeffersonian maxim that government is best which governs least, because its people discipline themselves. Creating a bid would force us to pay a very unwanted financial assessment, let's be honest, a tax, in addition to the property tax that we already paid. That's double taxation now and forever, with no real say from us or direct benefit to us or our properties. We believe that the private sector, including volunteers, solves problems in general more effectively and efficiently in general than government does. And I've been a government bureaucrat at both the federal and state level, so I say that from experience. This is because actual owners take actual ownership of problems and properties and have pride in what they do. It becomes a labor of love versus just another government project or costly task to be accomplished. We agree with those of us who warn us that such government devices as bids are really just another way of government wants to control us and limit our ability to use and enjoy our personal property as we see fit, such as Tom DeWeese, who is the founder and chairman of the American Policy Center, and Ronald Reagan, the greatest president in my lifetime, who said that the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. I also believe this process is backward, and I guess I would point to state law as the problem. I raise my hand right now to be willing to roll up my sleeves and help change that state law. It really should be that a majority of the property owners come to you saying, hey, we want this, and then it's up to the rest of the property owners to say no and why they don't want it, rather than a small group of people coming and saying, we're going to do this unless a huge number, 40% of the valuation of the area is against it. That's opposite. It should be a majority comes forward and wants to impose this additional layer of government versus a tiny group can come forward and now the rest of us have to react to it. So that process is backward. And I'll conclude in a few seconds here. But I just think of, if you get aging members, I get that point. I'm a member of a church that has an aging population. Should we have the government take over our church? Can you imagine what that would look like? I'm also a member of the American Legion. We have an aging base that goes back to World War II veterans, Korean War veterans, Vietnam veterans. What we've done to solve that problem is recruit younger members through brat fries and different events and outreach and sponsoring Little League and a whole bunch of other creative, innovative things. The answer is not more government. The answer is to get people, invested business owners, who will help and care and pass it on to the next generation. So for all these reasons and many more that time constrains me from going into, I ask you to please reject the Barton bid. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bart. Welcome.
My name is Brian Brundle. I'm an co-owner of Verana Lock and Safe at 1571 North Main Street. I'm a manager of the building at 1511 Barton Avenue, which is the old Barton Firehouse, for my uncle Terry Verana, who was an alderman for District 7 for many years. I want to first say that I think that the people who are proponents of this proposal are well-intentioned. I give them all the credit in the world for the work that they've done. Jeff Slace runs a great business. He's a good friend. I really appreciate the work that people have done to try to make their community better. I'm against this proposal. If it were up to me personally, I would love it if everything looked perfect and neat and clean and all the businesses were kept up. Terry, my uncle, feels the same way. Over the last couple of years, we've spent between $50,000 and $60,000 improving our 2 commercial buildings in that area to make sure that they look good, that our renters are happy, that they're stable, that they're functional. We did that on our own. Jeff told the story of how my uncle for years spent his own money and his own time, hours, thousands of dollars, himself replacing those Christmas lights up in Barton. Didn't have to. He did it because he wanted the community to be better. And I commend a lot of these people who have been helping with the Historic Barton Business Association. What Bart just brought up is true. There is an aging community, but if people aren't going to care about their own business and their own community, I do not like the idea of the government, forgive the term, basically at gunpoint saying you are going to be forced to care about your community. We are going to make you care by taking this money from you on an annual basis. We're going to put it under the control of a group of people that we are going to choose from, and we are going to decide how this money is going to be spent. The two buildings that we own, the amount of money that this would cost our little business every year comes pretty close to $1,000. That's about 2 to 3 months of cutting keys in my little lock shop to pay for that. And I am not a resident of the city of West Bend. I've supported the city for years by owning a business and managing property in West Bend. My friend Jason Miller brought this up to me this morning. He as well does not live in the city. We do not get representation as to who decides who gets to be on these boards. Now, we can be on the board if we so choose, and we can be outvoted by people who might have motives that have nothing to do with bringing money into our businesses. Terry, when I was talking to him about this, said no business gets customers by having benches outside or flower pots hanging or banners hanging. They get business by providing a service or a good that people want, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I think there are very good businesses in West Bend, and there are beautiful buildings in West Bend. The Long Branch just plated, it looks great. Both counseling buildings, there's great looking buildings, but there's a lot of buildings that don't look good. And those building owners and business owners should do what they can to make them better on their own. It shouldn't be up to the collective to do it. And that's the part that I have a big problem with here. I was speaking to Justice yesterday and we had a good conversation. I think he's doing a good job and I appreciate his care for the community. It's obvious he cares. But he brought up, and I don't know the full ins and outs of this proposal, about something about facade improvement grants from the city, and then I just about lost it. Because after spending all this money ourselves to improve our businesses and our buildings for the last few years, if I find out down the road that my money that I am now giving, this additional $1,000 a year, is going to people so that they can fix up their buildings, it's not fair and it's not right, and I think most of us have a problem with that. I heard somebody say over here, it might have been Johnny or somebody saying, you know, I wouldn't mind maybe one time making a donation to a project if it helps. And I agree with that. I think all of us are community-minded, and we all want our communities to look great, and we want Barton to look great. It's not a bad-looking area now. But year after year, you're going to take the same money in a time of inflation rising. We don't know how high that's going to go or what our financial status is going to be 2 years from now. And you're not giving us a choice to decide what to do with our own money. I would ask that you please vote against this proposal. It's just not the right time, and I think there's better ways to do it than an annual assessment that gets basically, like Bart said, it's a tax that gets added on to us. It's not fair and it's not the right thing to do. Thank you for listening to me.
Thanks, Brian. Welcome.
Welcome. My name's Robert Salinas. I actually have two properties in Barton. One's on 1903 North Main, the other one's 1539 North Main. I just recently purchased the latter one. I've been in the Barton area for quite some time with my first business, and I was well vested into the HBBA prior, talking 8 years ago when it first got started. My employees were vested. A lot of my staff were vested. We did all the HBBA brat fries. We did the Barton days, stuff like that. The problem I had is that we weren't getting the representation with the council that was running at that point in time. That's what I kind of have a problem with now. Apparently, there's going to be a committee that's going to be in charge of this money. Yes, you can say I can be part of that committee, but I have to be appointed to it. I don't know the ins and outs of it. And that leads into my second point that, for the most part, this seems like it's been rushed. Nobody in Barton really heard much about it. I watched the first meeting that you guys had in regards to it. There was, I think, maybe 6 people here. Now we have a little bit more because people have been talking. But my problem with it is that I think it has been rushed. I might not have a problem with it in the future if we actually get more information about it, how it's going to be formed, who's going to be in charge, what's it going for. there's a lot of misnomers and questions going on out there in regards to what is this for? A lot of people are talking about Barton Dam lightings that's going to be happening. My company's actually doing it. We're donating a lot of our time because I'm investing in the Barton area along with my business partner. So the aspect of the business is investing into the community, I don't have a problem with it. I used to do that. And I would like to do that. It's just trying to find out the best avenue to do that. To be forced to do it right now in this way with short notice, in an email correspondence back and forth, Justice even made a comment in regards to he didn't have the time that he wanted to go around and talk to all the business owners to explain what's going on. And I think if we hold off just a little bit of time on this, that we can actually discuss this amongst some business owners, you might get more people on board. But as for right now, for my 2 properties, I'm voting, I would like to have this not go through for the time being, just because I want to know what this is going to go on, how it's going to affect us. So for the most part, my vote right now, I'd say please hold off onto it until we get some more information about it.
Thanks, sir.
I'm Stephen Striggy. I own the property at 1631 North Main Street, the radio shop. I'm opposed to the bid proposal. This is like, agree with the previous speakers that this is not a very good time to be doing this. With the world economy being, who knows what's going to happen within the next year. Everything is up in the air. The stock market is flaky. And I also very much disagree with the method of voting. The voting is done on a valuation-based basis. In America, we're supposed to vote one man, one vote, or one person, one vote. Here, the person's weight of his vote is based on the valuation of his property. That's not right. And I did some calculations here. There are 72 people on the business commercial list here, industrial commercial. And if you divide that by the total assessed evaluation for the 3 areas, or one big area now, that comes down to about $225,000 value per vote. So the people that carry the highest valuations, which I believe is the Social Security building on Vern Street and the Amico Amico gas station across the street from 1631 North Main. Although they're very high valued properties, and according to the way you're doing the 40% decision making on passing or failing, they carry a lot of weight for the votes. And somebody with a lesser property value has little or no vote. And that's not right. It should be, each business should have an up and down vote regardless of the value of their property. That's the way it should be done. And as far as lighting the Barton Dam, it's a very nice project, but we also have a swamp growing behind the dam also, which maybe should be rectified before you beautify the dam. And as far as park benches, I don't think a park bench in front of my business is gonna help my business any. A planter with flowers in it, I doubt it. And North Main Street is pretty much quasi-industrial, heavy commercial type area. It's not like downtown West Bend where you have a lot of boutique shops and a trolley coming through every couple of years or whatever. Barton is not that way. We have, it's automotive, gas stations, automotive repair, small engine repair, my business, automotive, school bus repair, dump truck repair. It's not this goody-goody area like Barton Avenue is. If Barton Avenue wants to improve their area, I would say go back to the split districts again and let Barton Avenue do their thing by themselves. I'm opposed to the bid.
Thanks, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Zelenka. I have 32316 Commerce Street, and I'm here to speak in opposition to this plan. for a number of reasons. The first one is I don't know what it is. We're asked to support or reject a plan, and I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know who's going to do it. I don't know how it's going to be done. I have asked. I called the city. I was told that I'd be sent something of a plan, which I never received. So really, other than this gerrymandered map that is printed up here, and I'm not really sure how they came about that, that's the only information I have as to what's going on. Now, I've called people. And I've heard that it's a possibility that they would be putting some light bulbs on the dam, or that they might be putting flowers in the street, or Christmas decorations, and I'm not sure where those go. But really, making Barton more attractive is kind of the old adage of putting lipstick on a pig. It just irritates the pig. So, we really don't see any reason why we want to do that. It also reminds me of this idea of Obamacare, where you have to pass the package in order to find out what's in it. And we really know how that turned out. So really not interested in agreeing to something that I don't know what it is. Secondly, I have been assessed a property value which is just really unrealistic on my property. It's assessed way over $200,000, and then I have to pay this percentage on top of that. We've tried a number of times to sell that, and I think the assessments in Barton are a little bit off the wall. I'm not sure where they're really coming up with those numbers, but I know that when we tried to sell the property, we were told that $160,000 was too high, and we really didn't ever receive an offer on that. So really, putting a few carnations on the lamppost isn't going to do much to increase my value. And this passing the costs on, somebody said, well, you can just pass the cost on to your tenants. Well, that's not a viable solution. Already people are stressed as to how much money they have to pay for rent, for insurance, taxes. Passing costs along is just not really applicable. And really, I'm more opposed to the fact of adding another layer of bureaucracy to Barton. They have, from what I can understand, little accountability. They're able to raise a levy each year once this is passed with whatever they see fit for whatever they see fit. So there really is no mechanism in here which you can control it with. Again, I want to go back to an old parable about letting the camel get its nose in the tent. Once the camel gets his nose in the tent, eventually you have the whole camel, and you can't get him back out. So really, I don't need another layer of government or bureaucracy telling me what I can and can't do with my property. I haven't asked for any help, and I really don't want any. So finally, my opinion is that if West Bend and Barton especially don't address the lack of parking, and this is really one of the big issues. We have a property on Commerce Street between two bars, and now another one is going to be opening there next to the Long Branch. And so the parking is just terrible. We've had problems with people parking in front of our driveway. They park all up and down the street. So if Barton wants to do something, Barton needs to get some parking, as does West Bend. So really, it's my opinion that no kind of flowers, no light bulbs, no Yuletide decorations are going to improve the neighborhood. So in conclusion, I am totally against the bid district in my neighborhood.
Thanks, Jerry.
My name is Jason Miller. We're at 1168 North Main Street at A1 Pools. If anything comes out of this, I think awareness of the Barton, what's it called, the HBBA? Right. I think awareness of that will have increased. Up until now, I wasn't aware of the HBBA. I thought there might be some business administration over on Barton Avenue that did things, but I really didn't know much about them. Based on this, I wouldn't mind getting involved and helping out, but we are opposed to any type of new tax jurisdiction that would be formed. I went around and did some legwork and talked to a lot of area businesses to get their opinions, and we've compiled a list. It looks like, according to what you sent out, there's roughly $17 million of assessed value. The magic number of 40% is $7 million worth of assessed value. We've got 8.5, actually, with a couple people here, we're probably approaching $9 million worth of people pledged to sign a letter against this, which is more than 50% of the assessed value. So if this gets forwarded on from this point, then we will file the letters with the city and it will be killed that way. Based on the number of people that was brought up, we've got 31 coming into this meeting, and based on a couple extra people we haven't talked to, we're well over that of people against it. So if every one person got a vote against this, we'd also be over 40% against it. This is supposed to be a business improvement district, and I have yet to hear what would make a substantial improvement. I was talking with Justice on the phone to kind of get an idea of what plans they have or what period of time. And what I feel is missing from the equation is, how do we measure success of business development? And over what period of time do we measure that success? And how do we seek to achieve that success? So if we're gonna raise $50,000 this year, and it's presumably the same amount or a similar amount the next 5 years, and spend $250,000, at what intervals are we spending that money, and what are we spending it on, and what are we trying to achieve, and how do we measure that? And I feel that just raising the money and putting it into a kitty to spend on what we think we wanna do at the time is sort of irresponsible, and maybe we need to do more planning before we make something as permanent as a bid. I also looked at the numbers, and 2/3 of the assessed value listed on here is on North Main Street, and 1/3 of it is on Barton Avenue. But most of the money that would be spent is primarily historically been on Barton Avenue, and I haven't heard of any substantial plans to spend elsewhere. I don't think that 2/3 of the people paying should be the ones getting just a small fraction of what the resources are being used for. I myself, knowing about the Barton Association, I expressed my intent to get involved going forward, and being that I didn't know about it, and being that people are getting older that are involved, which often is the case, I think there are ways to increase awareness. I think this increases awareness, and maybe some of the younger business owners in the market in that area can start to get involved, and people can contribute on a voluntary basis, rather than based on their means and based on their passion, as opposed to being taxed. And so A1 Pools is against it, as our $9 million worth of assessed value, and approaching 35 out of the 70 people at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Anybody else from the public who would like to speak on this item? Welcome.
Hi, everybody. I didn't even know about this until about 2 hours ago. My name is Chad Smith. I own half of Master Electric, which is at 1903 North Main Street. As you can tell, I'm not too good talking in front of the public, but here I go. Before you get the money from us, why don't you tell us what it's for? As I'm hearing what's going on with the businesses and stuff, it is correct. You're going to take the money to improve. How about giving us the vision of what we're going to improve? Here's what I say. I'm an electrical contractor, and I'm on Main Street, right across the street from a plumbing contractor. One of my largest expenditures is fixing my vehicles, which is about 6 doors down at Rogers Auto. The Cub Cadet that I cut my grass with every day came from right across the street from Barton Small Engine. I don't think that any of those businesses are going to benefit, as these gentlemen said, from planters and benches and every other damn thing. A vision of what you guys want to do with that part of town would be great. It might even be that our business doesn't even fit into what the vision would be. I've been out in the West Bend area for about 20 years now. In that time, I've watched Paradise build up from farm fields. I've watched P build up. I've watched River Road build up. And Barton has been completely ignored. 33 all the way out, hell, halfway out to Allenton now is built up. Barton is just kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. Perfect example, I have a trinket shop right next to an electrical contractor, which is next to a hairstylist, which is next to a dentist, across the street from a tattoo parlor, on top of a gas station and everything else. What I'm saying is this is a hodgepodge. Some people probably benefit, some don't. One of the things I caught in here, I'm a math guy, Bob will tell you, Tammy and him handle all the public speaking. I'm not the guy to do that. but I'm a numbers guy. The only reason I'm standing up here is and I'll hold my breath, I was going to say something I shouldn't. I'm appalled by this 40%, but the gentleman brought it up, one man, one vote. I haven't looked at the assessed values, but I can guarantee I could look at the assessed values, and there's probably a very minute number of businesses to get to that 40%, i.e. there's 72 people, 72 businesses affected. What, does it only take 13 or 14 to get the okay? Because that's not one man, one vote, that's 40%. Thank God this guy over here got 31 people here to talk against it, and he did some math on the $9 million mark. Good job on that. I just think that that's kind of a shell game, and that's bullshit, to be honest. It should be each business gets a vote, not assessed value, because the assessed value, I'm a little appalled by that, because my property value allows that my business partner and I have half of a vote. Yet we also own a rental property at 202 Gatto Lane, and we also own another investment property at 1364 North 12th. Do I get to add all my three property values together even though they're not in the taxing? They're in Barton, I pay taxes. The roads get plowed, I'm paying for that. I'm paying for the garbage removal. That's my point on that one. Also, I don't live in the West Bend area, similar to what that gentleman said. I live out in Farmington. I don't receive any benefit of the other. The gentleman talked about parking. He's right. There's a lot of things we could do to make it better up there. Reaching into our pocket and pulling out money to put up planters and bushes or whatever the hell else is ridiculous. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Welcome.
Hello, my name is Jim Sprouse. I'm a part owner of Property Loss Management, 2040 North Main Street in Barton, West Bend. I'm getting a sense that this is already decided that this is going to happen. You know, even if this year it gets voted down, then it just comes right back next year, and it's going to keep doing that until, you know, it passes or something. I don't know if that's how it actually works. Do you know better than us or something? Or are you going to, you know, I'm trying to figure out how this is going to directly improve our business. We pay taxes already for the property. We also pay a business tax based on, you know, what we do and stuff. So this is another, it's another tax, and it's not clear what's going to happen each year with it, or if it's just going to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger, and then it needs people to, you know, manage it or something. I don't know, you know, what. It doesn't have a real clear game plan is one of our concerns as well too. So if you don't spend the money, then next year you have, you know, 100,000, then you have 150, and then I agree, that just doesn't make sense. I don't have notes in front of me, so I apologize for sounding a little scattered on this, but I guess that's just it. It doesn't seem right, you know, in my gut, it doesn't seem right. It might be a good idea, but why does it need that much money? I mean, what could you possibly do with 50 or 58,000 bucks in Barton? What would you have to show me that, like, here's what we would do. And why just me? I mean, everyone's going to drive by that, you know. You're taxing me because why? You know, how come not everybody in Barton? And where does all that money that everyone does pay? We pay that to West Bend. So would some of this naturally belong to West Bend? I mean, wouldn't? How come we don't get just regular old Christmas decorations? We all pay the same taxes as anybody does on any street, you know. So how come we got to fight for our own, you know, Christmas decorations or something? You know, it's like, I don't know. I don't know much about all of this. It just it did come on suddenly, and it was just like, oh, I just heard about this, but it's going to cost me $750 a year, and what am I going to get for that? You know, that's all. I trust y'all, and I don't have time to do what you're doing, but I need more information before I can do it. So, all right, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. And I will look for a motion in the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. It's been motion seconded in the public hearing. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And we'll turn it over to the commission if anybody has any questions or comments.
All right, so my take on this is I see the value of doing it, but in order to do it, I think you need the businesses that are impacted supporting it. I don't really see that. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen at some point, but as of right now, I'd have a hard time supporting it given the fact the businesses aren't. I think if it was my business, like I said, I see the value of doing a bid, and I think good things would come of it, but hamstringing or forcing businesses right now is not something I could get behind. So that's my initial thought.
Thanks. Can I ask, jumping off that, maybe it's a question for Jess. Process-wise, is there a time limit once the petitioners initially file that we need to have these kind of discussions, or could more time be given to educating the public? I'm just curious.
No, I mean, it could be postponed, or it can be rejected or approved. The time is, we did the 30 days as the, law says, and we facilitated that process, but it's up to you at this point. If you were to approve it tonight, then there is a 30-day period of time for the petitioning, and if you reject it, then it is done. That's it.
And then on that note, so if it's rejected tonight, is there a statute of limitations when maybe those same individuals or new individuals could bring it up again? I think one of the gentlemen had asked about that.
Not that I'm aware of or could speak to.
Okay. Thanks. Yep. Commissioner Dolnick?
Just to make a few clarifications, the question was asked about Christmas decorations. They, I am told, were purchased by the downtown bid and then donated to the city. The city did not buy the Christmas decorations. Comment was made about lack of business development. That is a function of the marketplace. I've seen this in social media. Why hasn't the city developed Barton? It's not the city's responsibility to develop Barton. For whatever reason, I don't know why, businesses from, whether it's Quick Trip or whatever, have decided not to invest money in that section of the city. But that is not a special advantage. The city has not gone around developing South Main Street. That was, or other parts of the city. That is a function of the marketplace. So it's not as, and it's ironic, I've got to say, when I hear somebody refer to putting lipstick on a pig, referring to Barton, I hope that you didn't really mean that, sir, because I've lived in this town for 44 years, and I've constantly heard in all that time how badly treated Barton is, and West Bend treats Barton so badly, and then I hear that kind of a remark, and I mean, don't put that on us here, okay? But I have to agree with Commissioner Schmidt that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of interest in this. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is a lot of disparaging remarks are made about the government. I would like to remind you, we are hearing this because a petition was filed with the city. This was not something the city came up with. This was something that people from that business district requested, and we are obeying state law. So if you have a problem with what we are doing here, we are obeying the law.
Thank you. Commissioner Newman?
Yeah, what I get out of this was it was kind of rushed and not enough information was given. I don't know how one property owner can first find out a couple hours before this. Was there communication with these businesses through the city? Could they have had a business meeting with everyone? Could they have taken a simple poll of the 72 businesses? I'm not sure if that's part of the process, or could have been.
I'll let Jess answer that because there was a little bit of a process.
Sure, there was a public information session that took place in August. And then when we received the letter of petition, that initiated our city staff to send certified letters to every address within the proposed district, including residences. So they were informed. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
I would just echo Commissioner Schmidt's sentiments. It doesn't seem like it's supported by the business community, and perhaps we're putting the cart before the horse. And so I would be opposed to it as well. So I do think, that being said, it would ultimately be to the benefit of Barton.
Thanks. What?
I have to first start by saying that I've always admired Mr. Slace and the work he's done and the people that have all helped, and the amazing things that they've accomplished in Barton. So I do want to say that. But I do agree with Commissioner Schmidt and Gannon, Commissioners Schmidt and Gannon, that it just doesn't seem like this is explained enough, and perhaps not the right time for this to happen. And I would want to see more support from the community.
Sounds great.
I guess, one more thing. I think a lot of good things are happening on the north side of 33 now, and I think ultimately it's going to extend up to Barton. I think what's happening with the old brewery building, I think what's happening across the street with the cast iron, it's all a good catalyst for really good things for the future, but ultimately it has to be the business community in that district that wants it. And I'm excited. I think a few years from now might make sense to everyone that's sitting in this room, but until that point, I guess I would say let's leave it up to them.
Sounds good. I guess I'll just end with one of the gentlemen who had spoke had a great comment about, throughout this process, what you learned was about the HBBA and all the wonderful things that they do. I hope this was an educational process for everybody, and they continue to learn about the HBBA and truly put your money where your mouth is, right? If you have time and funding that you want to donate to better our community and better Barton, and follow through with that call for volunteerism, this is your opportunity to do it right now. And then, as was commented, if throughout that spurs your desire to want to do more, you know how this process works now, and we would be happy to hear this once again. So I believe if there's no motion in favor, then just ends, correct? Sounds great. Any other comments? Otherwise, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. We appreciate it. It's not very often that we get nice crowds at our meetings, so thank you for being here. And if you'd like, we got one more exciting agenda item that we're going to be talking about. So otherwise, thank you very much. Have a great night. And with that, we'll go to number 2, discussion and possible recommendations to amend Chapter 17 zoning code to allow shooting ranges as a conditional use within the City of West Bend by the Department of Development. The applicant is City of West Bend. The agent is the same. I believe Mark is going to give us an update. Nope, sorry, Jim, this time.
Actually, I'm gonna give the brief, and then we'll open up for discussion. So back in September of this year, we received a request for changing the code to incorporate indoor and outdoor firing ranges as a conditional use within various districts. Staff brought this to the commission and was instructed to draft up a proposed code change. So tonight, we've made those changes as requested. We are proposing to add a conditional use, to amend the conditional use sections in the various zoning districts for 17.25 of B1 Community Business District, 17.28 B4 General Warehousing and General Business District, 17.30, which is our B6, our Office District, along with 17.305, which is our intensive commercial B7 intensive commercial distribution district. And then also along with our I-1 institutional district, our P1 park and recreation open space district, and the 2 industrial districts of M1 for light industrial and M3, which is our planned business park. These districts would allow for the conditional uses for the indoor ranges. We have further amended the code to address outdoor ranges also. So staff was proposing to have the outdoor firing ranges within the P1 and I1 zoning districts, and also the M1 and M3 districts, as long as there is an associated use to the principal building for that outdoor firing range. Along with that, we've established some criteria for those firing ranges for both indoor and outdoor, which we included into the packet. And essentially, we're establishing some performance standards for that.
Sounds great. So just for tonight, you're just looking for other ideas, right, Marcus, for his process?
Correct. This is a starting point for your discussion. We're not necessarily recommending this. It's just this would seem like a reasonable starting point. The indoor firing ranges last time had a fairly unanimous consensus when we brought that to you. That's why we color-coded these things. If we move forward with this, we'd like your opinions on each of those two, the indoor or the outdoor, separately, so that would give staff the authorization to move forward with an ordinance for each, and that's how we would propose bringing it back for both public hearing and your recommendations to council. So we'd have two separate ones. So if something is objectionable one, the other one doesn't suffer from it in the process. The parameters that we put out here, we had discussed briefly with you before, but we have looked at different design guidelines. We tried to do some of the research that you asked about previously. For example, where if there were any urban environment outdoor ranges, and the short answer for that is there are none within any close proximity in Wisconsin and Michigan. Couldn't find anything that would do that, and I've asked some additional people as well. We've looked at a couple of different safety or a couple of different guidelines, professional guidelines, to act as the some of these what is appropriate under a conditional use permit for the range designs and range operation. We did check. Jed, you had asked if we could find out regarding liability, and that comes with an approval of a conditional use permit, and it was recommended by our legal counsel that it would probably be less appropriate to go through the licensing and regulation portion of this and put that burden back on the range operator. So we pulled back some of that other language that we had put in here previously. So if you would like to discuss this, if you have any questions regarding the parameters that we did here, these aren't the end all, but we tried to keep it open enough that an applicant could come up with answers for the conditions without us dictating them, because what's good on one site isn't necessarily good on another. But at the same time, if we don't have some parameters, then it's hard to justify the conditional use permit. So with that, we'll open it back up to you guys.
Sounds great. And I guess if the Plan Commission's opinions haven't changed, is there any appetite to even discuss the open ranges, the outside ranges? I don't think there was an appetite before, but just want to know if that's something we should discuss or axe now. Okay. So then let's talk about the indoor ranges, if anybody has any comments. Yes, sir.
And disposing of the outdoor really cut the times. That's great. The only thing that I had to say then, I'm a little uncomfortable with the I-1 zoning as a conditional use for indoor range. I just don't see how, even as a conditional use, that mixes well with the other uses in an I-1.
The reason we included that in the initial discussion is that the other uses within an institutional zoning often are governmental or educational, and there would be the potential as an accessory use under that a range would be requested.
Oh, I see.
They also tend to be typically are large sites. Now, there are other institutionally zoned properties where it would not be appropriate, nursing facilities, healthcare facilities, that sort of thing. It'd be hard pressed to find a rationale for that. But there are large single-user institutional sites that might be appropriate.
Okay, good enough.
Thanks. Any other thoughts? Nothing, really?
I'm largely in support of it as it's written. I think it's good for the city, so.
Sounds good.
I would agree.
Okay. Other heads nodding?
I agree.
Sounds good. Is that good enough for you, Mark?
That's fine. Consensus is you're not going to discuss outdoor, and consensus is, as presented, is acceptable for moving forward.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Can you talk about next steps real quick?
Sure. We will, as I mentioned, we'll put this in ordinance form. We will publish it for public hearing notice on 11/2, our regularly scheduled plan commission meeting in November. And at that time, you will discuss it and listen for the public comments. And if you recommend, well, either way, your recommendation will go to, the ordinances would go to council for further decision and possible approval.
Sounds great. Any further questions? Then, having no further business for the Planning Commission, I'll adjourn by the call of the chair. Have a good night.